Hi, let's make some roasted root veg and chicken salad. You can use any root vegetables you'd like. The one I chose are listed below in the ingredient list. First thing first, though, is let's preheat your oven to 425 degrees. The next important step is to make sure you've cut all of your root vegetables into equal sized pieces. This is important so that they all cook evenly and some don't burn before the others aren't even finished. I also like to use Brussels sprouts for this. All you have to do here is cut the ends off and then slice them in half. Now we'll season all of them with a good glug of olive oil, probably a couple tablespoons in each. Little salt and pepper, a couple of good pinches each, and if you've got fresh ground pepper, that goes a long ways. Now, I like to toss my vegetables while they're in a bowl rather than while they're on the pan to get them evenly coated. I do this because well, I just lost one, but I tend to lose a lot more if I'm tossing them in the pan. Let's do the same thing to the Brussels sprouts and then spread them evenly on your pan. Scooch your root vegetables over to one side so you have room to put your Brussels sprouts flat side down. This way, when you're in your 425 degree oven roasting for 30 minutes, they'll have plenty of time to get a nice brown coating on one side that's awful tasty. While they're in the oven, let's start on our chicken. Now you can use any seasoning mix you'd like on these as long as it includes at least salt. In this case, I'm using paprika, thyme, cumin, salt, garlic powder, and white pepper. Now, sprinkle your seasoning mix of your choice on both sides of your chicken very well. Once you've done that, let's put them in the fridge and move on to the next step, which is making the glaze for our vegetables once they've come out of the oven. Grab yourself a small saucepan, add the maple syrup and the miso. I think maple syrup and miso is one of my favorite flavor combinations. To this, we're going to add our grainy mustard and our red wine vinegar. Let's not forget the pepper flakes and our old friend freshly ground black pepper. Now, let's mix this up or whisk this up and try to get out all the lumps before we take it over to the stove. Bring your glaze up to a slight simmer, and if you're like me, see some rosemary in your window and decide to put that in there too. That was sort of a last minute decision. Turned out pretty good. Whisk this in and we'll bring it up to a very, very light boil. The only reason we're doing this is to take the edge off of the vinegar. This is about where we want it, and she's done. Let's take her off and wait for the vegetables to get ready. When they are, there they are in all their caramelized glory. We're going to dump this glaze on them. Now, I know it looks like a lot, and it looks like it's drowning in it. But we're going to toss it and make sure each vegetable's pretty well coated. Because what we want to do after these are coated is take it back and put it in our 425 degree oven for just about 10 more minutes. What this is going to do is it's going to tighten up the glaze. A lot of the water will evaporate from it and it will make a nice, yummy looking glazed vegetables. All we have to do is let this cool off. I wouldn't mess with it yet because when they're hot, they're mushy and they'll set up a little bit. While our vegetables are cooking, let's work on our chicken. We'll want to go ahead and turn the oven down to 350 degrees and put a skillet on the stovetop. Get it on medium-high heat. We want that skillet ripping hot while we're oiling up our chicken here. Just pour a tablespoon or so over your chicken. Make sure it's nice and coated. Once we've done that, let's head over to the stove. You can see that skillet's got a chance to get smoking hot, which is exactly what we want. Now, we're not going to cook the chicken all the way through on this skillet, we're just getting it a nice crust, which equals flavor. And we're only going to cook it for 1 minute on each side. Time yourself. You don't want to do any more than that. Now, when you turn it over, you'll see it has a nice golden caramelized surface. And after it's a minute on the other side, we'll take it out of the skillet and put it on a foil-lined tray. Let's get that skillet off of the heat and turn that stove off. And then let's pop our chicken into our 350 degree oven for about, for me, it took 10 minutes for our chicken to read 160 degrees on the thermometer. Now, you want this up to 165, but there'll be some carryover heat. So let's wrap it up in the foil that we line the tray with and let it sit while we compose the rest of our salad. This dressing, avocado cilantro dressing with lime, is freaking delicious. It's so tangy and easy to make. All it really consists of is half a bunch, depending on how big your bunch of cilantro is. A peeled avocado. This was kind of a smaller avocado, so I used the whole thing. I probably could have just used half of it, but I like my dressing a little creamier. I also like it on the tangy side. So I use the juice of a whole lime. This was a particularly juicy one. Next, I'm going to add my honey fermented garlic and a little bit of honey. It's a nice little touch of probiotics in there, and it sort of mellows out the garlic. I'll show you how to make that someday if you'd like me to. It's not hard. Now let's put a good glug, maybe a tablespoon of rice wine vinegar. The rice wine vinegar is what I like to use because it's lower acidity than other vinegars and just has a milder flavor. Now about a teaspoon of onion powder, a little bit of salt, and of course our old friend freshly cracked pepper. Oh, I go through a lot of cracked pepper. Now, because I used a whole avocado in this, off screen here, after I was blending this up, I had to actually add probably about a half cup of water to get to the thickness I wanted. It was pretty chunky. I had to loosen that up quite a bit. All right, now we've got our ingredients ready. Let's put our salad together. You can use any lettuce you'd like, as much lettuce as you'd like. Spinach, romaine, mixed greens like this, whatever you feel like. I always like to put a little salt on my lettuce. Not too much, just enough to give it a little flavor on its own, and a little lemon juice. Keep in mind we're going to be adding some dressing later, so we don't want to overdo it. I just don't want to miss the opportunity to flavor the greens themselves. Now, the rest is pretty straightforward. We're going to add a good handful of our delicious miso maple roasted glazed vegetables. Gosh, I love that stuff. That amount I made actually made enough for about 4 salads plus some vegetables for another side dish. So this goes a ways. Now, here I used about half of a chicken breast that I diced up. Those were about 8-ounce chicken breasts, so half of that's a pretty good portion. Now we're going to add our tomatoes. I also had some sauerkraut that I made, which, again, a little more probiotics, delicious, good for you. And here's our dressing. You can see how much I loosened that up with that water. You can add as little or as much as you want. This dressing really does make this dish. It'd be good just for anything, just to dip vegetables in, little carrot sticks. It's good dressing. Anyways, here we go. Lunch is ready. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know what you think.